Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. How is everyone doing? It's been a while since we had a show, so let's have a show today. And we're still on the matter of Charlie Kirk and Israel, Netanyahu, to be precise. So we cannot remember when Charlie Kirk was murdered in broad daylight in the full view of so many people on the college campus. How Netanyahu was so quick to make the announcement. I mean, in a very, very weird way, he made an announcement about the death of this American, which had nothing to do with Israel, had nothing to do with Israel's fight and the seven front war that they were having. And after then, he's come up, I think, at least twice to give a disclaimer that Israel did not kill Charlie Kirk. Weird, right? I mean, weird, really, really weird that conversation would even come up. And in a bit to show how jolly a fellow he was with Charlie Kirk, he read part of a letter that Charlie Kirk, wrote to him. Now, Candace Owens challenged Netanyahu to release the full content of that letter because the way he was framing it, Candace believed was quite different from what Charlie had intended. And so finally, the letter is out there for people to see, and I'm going to be taking a look at it today. Rathbone has done some critique of that, so I'm going to be critiquing his critique of it. I'm going to be, I'm mostly going to be agreeing with what he said anyway. So I'll just play Rathbone, going through the letter, this letter that Charlie Kirk wrote to Netanyahu before he was murdered. So let's see what it contains. Let's go.
Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago.
Really? Let's have a look at that letter that Charlie Kirk sent you just before his death. It has now been shared on social media, the full contents of this letter. From the desk of Charlie Kirk, dear Mr. Prime Minister, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews in the fight to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. Most recently, I am proud to have taken over
Yeah, first of all, we know that concept of a Judeo-Christian civilization is hogwash. Makes no sense. There is no, it's a made-up concept. It doesn't mean anything, right? But as you are going to see later on, it's more an alliance against Islam or Muslims. That's what the so-called Judeo-Christian whatever bullshit that is.
Ambassador Huckabee's show on TBN, where we continually support Israel and the Jewish people. As Muhammadism spreads into Western societies, it's critical that Jews and Christians.
So not for any substantive reason or he's Charlie Kirk supporting Israel, just for religious reasons. Isn't that religiously fanatical? For you to just support a country for religious reasons. Supposing there was a Muslim country who said that, or they're supporting other Muslim countries for religious reasons. You're going to be like, oh, terrorists, oh, religious fanatics, oh, not because there is something valuable in the principle that that country is espousing. No, simply for religious reasons. So this is religious bigotry off the bat.
Christians stay united in the effort to contain and roll back radical Islam and Sharia law. I regret to report that anti-Israel and anti-Semitic trends are at record levels on social media. These negative sentiments.
I wonder why. I wonder why anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiments will all of a sudden be on the rise. I mean, what is it about Jews that people just hate them? What is it about Israelis that people just hate them? Right? It's so special that people just hate them for no reason. This is crazy. Or maybe it has something to do with the fact that Israel is committing a genocide right now in the name of Jews. So Israel is putting Jews in a very bad situation. Israel is damaging the reputation of Jews by committing a clear genocide in the name of Jews. And this is doing a massive disservice to the millions of Jewish people all over the world who have nothing to do with Israel.
And flow downstream into college campuses and even seep into the conservative MAGA community. My team and I have spent months analyzing these trends and debating ideas that could help you and your country push back against these disturbing developments. Anti-Israel sentiment can undermine American support for Israel. The purpose of this letter is to lay out our concerns and outline potential remedies. Everything written here is from a place of deep love for Israel and the Jewish people. I think it's important to be brutally honest with those you love.
Yeah, of course, Charlie has to genuflect and kiss ass and do all the, all the humiliation ritual for Israel before he gets to his point. That's the point of it. It's it's so crazy how you find a situation where a very small, tiny country like Israel controls the United States like a tail wagging a dog. It's very, very, very weird. What the hell is going on? The American politicians have to genuflect at Israel. He's grovel. He wants to say something critical to Netanyahu, but he has to preface it with all this. Your friend, I'm saying this from a place of love, and yada yada yada, nonsense.
In my opinion, Israel's losing the information war and needs a communications intervention. As if
Yeah, you don't lose. The truth doesn't lose an information war if it's the truth, right? It's only when you're trying to. It's only propaganda that loses propaganda. So if Israel is telling the truth, then ultimately it will prevail. For the fact that it thinks it needs Israel needs certain strategies to be able to push their narrative or whatever it is, shows clearly that there's something wrong with their narrative. It's it's not a battle between competing truths. It's falsehood versus truth, and the truth is winning out. And the truth doesn't lie with Israel. That's why they're losing.
the one thing that Israel needs to do here is intervene in its own intervention. They love that word, intervene, don't they? I started to compose this letter to you on Easter. I should have been focused on my family. But I was getting bombarded with messages about the Israeli army making it difficult for Christians to access church in Jerusalem on Easter. At the time, I did not see any official statements pushing back on this narrative. It was frustrating because pro-Israel surrogates like me should not be in charge of fact-checking every piece of anti-Israel misinformation that pours into social media.
Now, this is even much more. This reveals even much more, how shitty a person Charlie Kirk was. He's concerned about Palestinian Christians. He's concerned about them not being able to access their churches. What about Palestinian Muslims? They're not human beings. They don't deserve your sympathy. They don't deserve your oh, okay, sorry. Charlie doesn't like the word empathy or sympathy. Those are made up words. But clearly he's been empathetic to Palestinian Christians. So why? So this reveals a deep level of religious bigotry.
Wasn't just Easter. On my recent campus tours, half the questions I get are about Israel, and they're all negative. Well, boo who, Charlie Kirk?
So, when you know this famous quote, when is it a quote or something? Okay, maybe it's not a quote, but I'll just say it. If everyone hates you, it's probably you. No, 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 no. It's not probably, it's you. It can't be everyone. So there's got to be something that you're doing wrong. So it's you, it's Israel. So if everything about Israel, if everybody's perception, most people's perception about Israel is negative, then it's because Israel is doing something bad. And what might that be? Oh, genocide.
I often spend half my time on these campus tours defending Jews and Israel, which I'm proud to do because I love Israel and love
And
the
this is the funny thing, they keep conflicting both. And this is dangerous. This game they're playing is dangerous. Putting Jews and Israelis in the same sentence is a very dangerous game because people are rightly disgusted with what Israel is doing, and you do not want to make that association with Jews. You don't want people to start hating Jews for the actions of Israel. But that's where it's getting to. And it's a self fulfilling prophecy because Israel will say, "Hey, it's anti Semitism, it's about Jews." They are the ones making it about Jews. Yeah.
Jewish filth. I'm sorry, Jewish faith. I spent endless hours with Dennis Prager. Excuse me, I just vomited off screen. Over the
Yeah.
years,
Dennis Prager gives me the creeps.
studying the Torah. Sometimes it feels like I'm defending Israel in public more than your own government. My experience on college campuses matches a recent Harvard Harris poll, which reported 48% of 18 to 24-year-old Americans support a certain age group was shall be not named over Israel.
Do you know how much goodwill Israel has burnt over 3 years? Let me not say 90%. Let's say 80% of the world had a favorable opinion of Israel, believed all these standard narratives of the Holocaust and Jewish persecution and yada yada and all those things, saw them as the victims who triumphed over a sordid history. All that goodwill has been eroded. I mean, almost all of it is eroded in 2 years because of this lunatic state of Israel, because of their unhinged actions. So people are beginning to question things, and all the standard narratives, all the falsehoods, all the false narratives, they're beginning to crumble. Well, it's actually a good thing that they're beginning to crumble because we've been told so many lies for a very long time. So it's time to, know what the truth is.
Even in young MAGA circles, Israel is losing support. We're getting huge crowds of 4,000, 5,000 students on some of my college tours. My campus visits are becoming like a rock concert atmosphere filled with conservative patriots. Yet on these campus visits, I'm constantly confronted with, quote, Israel is an apartheid state. Quote, why does Israel conduct ethnic cleansing? Quote, why is America subsidizing Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people? Quote, is American aid helping to subsidize Israel's free healthcare? Quote, Israel and the Jews are running U.S. foreign policy. Quote, Israel and Jews are responsible for 9/11. Quote, defending Israel is not in our U.S. national interest. Quote, why is Israel trying to drag us into a war in the Middle East? Funny that
In all but one of those instances, which is the case of Jews being responsible for 9/11, I agree with MAGA. In all but that instance, weirdly agree with MAGA on these indictments on Israel. It's crazy that the most despicable group of people in America have more moral fortitude than Israel.
Milikowski mentioned nothing about all of this when referencing Charlie Kirk's letter in an interview. Above are just a sampling of the negative Israel Jewish comments and questions I confront on college campuses. I'm accused of being
Well, they're not negative, they're the truth.
paid apologist for Israel. Well, if the shoe fits, Charlie Kirk, when I defend her. However, if I don't defend Israel strongly enough, I'm accused of being anti-Semitic. And thus we see Charlie Kirk is the real victim in all this. I know you've got a 7-front war, and my kvetching pales in comparison. That's right. His complaining pales in comparison to who, chat? Israel's suffering, of course. But I'm trying to convey to you that Israel is losing support, even in conservative circles. This is what Netanyahu was complaining about a few days ago when he lamented about the presence of the woke Reich in American society these days. This should be a 5-alarm fire. I'm often asked, why is Israel killing so many innocent civilians in Gaza? I know Israel goes to great lengths by dropping flyers and even calling civilians to clear out of areas about to be bombed. I know Israel posts maps showing which areas should be evacuated. And Charlie Kirk
And Israel thinks that's a good thing, uprooting people from their lives, telling them to move from a certain area and bombing those areas. So let's flip it this way. Would Israel be comfortable constantly moving its population, its people from place to place just so its enemies can have sites to bomb? Supposing Iran says, you know what, Tel Aviv, evacuate Tel Aviv, we're going to bomb Tel Aviv 5 p.m. and we're giving you 10 hours ahead to move. People are going to uproot their lives, their jobs, schooling for children, healthcare, everything. Just move. Now that's humane. That's a very humane thing. You're doing something great. You're doing something fantastic. But telling them to move, by the way, you're still going to bomb them on the way, leaving that place. I'm still going to bomb the so-called designated safe areas. You're still going to bomb them. This is this is what happens, and they call themselves the most moral army in the world. And I make no, I make no apologies for saying this, that Israel, the way it's behaving right now, they are just as bad as the Nazis were, if not even worse.
Kirk, I know that in spite of those maps, Israel still bombs the evacuated zones and the safe zones. I know that H Group uses civilians as human shields, but 90% of the younger generations get their news from social media and podcasts, and there is very little pushback or fact-checking by the Israeli government and or pro-Israel supporters in the media.
If I had a nickel for every time there is a pushback, there is an Israeli propaganda on social media to shift or craft narratives in favor of Israel, I'd be richer than Elon Musk, because that's all they do. It's that there's, I don't think there's any nation on this earth that has engaged in so much propaganda for such a tiny country. It's insane. What a pathological society.
Especially social media. So Charlie Kirk is frustrated because Charlie Kirk's bottom dollar is being affected. He's losing his following. He can't write the course. Fighting the information war, on the front lines of the information war. And remember, he's the voice of a younger generation. He's supposed to be the Gen Z conservative movement guy. And Gen Z is no longer with him on this. So he's got to take it up with Master. What does Master say? Master don't care. Master, Kirk, Charlie. Charlie continues. I strongly suggest Israel not, all caps, always depend on subcontracting their information war efforts to surrogates in America. Mr. Prime Minister, I urge you to revamp your information war fair strategy from top to bottom. Well, in the wake of his assassination, we have seen Netanyahu revitalize and go. Basically, we've seen Netanyahu go against Charlie Kirk's advice and once again subcontract to surrogates in America, American influencers, Z-list, no pun intended.
Why is it necessary for American influencers to be the one making brief for Israel? It's don't you find that a bit odd? Why are American audiences the target for Israeli propaganda? What do you need to convince Americans? Why? Why do you need American influencers to do all this? I mean, no other country in the world does that. No other country in the world does it so brazenly. And if they did, it's be seen as a threat to national security, to be treasonous. And but with Israel, everything, the laws that apply to us normal humans obviously don't apply to Israelis.
American influencers who are paid $7,000 a post to support Israel. And he's recruited them in a very public campaign. And this was evident in his last visit to the United States, where he gave that awful speech to the UN. Sometimes the impression is given that Israel thinks everyone hates them. So why care about winning over hearts and minds?
Yeah, everyone hates you, but not just for the sake of hating you, but for what you're doing, for gaslighting the world, for carrying out a genocide, for acting like a rabid dog, unhinged lunatic society. Yes. For those reasons, people don't dislike you for no reason.
If there's any truth to this impression, I urge you to consider that social media and podcasts is where you fight for the hearts and minds.
And you know what? Everyone cannot be wrong.
The younger generation. Obviously, all this negative Israel propaganda on social media easily translates into pro-H group free Palestine sentiment on many college campuses. Here are some unsolicited recommendations my team and I suggest if you're open-minded to a communications reset. Number one, For starters, you need a rapid response media team. President Trump does this very effectively on social media with his own account and his White House Rapid Response 47 team. The president has strong fighters like Stephen Miller and Caroline Leavitt who battle the press every day. Honestly, I don't even know
Yeah, the battle of morons.
if you have a press secretary. You are an eloquent defender of Israel. You need a team of information warriors out there pushing back every day. And Danny Denon stands up and says, but what about me? Don't I do a good job? In real time, when you don't push back, anti-Semitism and anti-Israel propaganda fill the void. A pro-Israel friend recently asked me, do Israelis even care how the world perceives their country?
They don't. Psychopathic society, they don't.
Of course not. I could have answered that. 2, I strongly recommend putting together a team of pro-Israel experts who can fact-check misinformation in real time from Israel. Israel needs to take the lead in this effort. No more dependence on subcontractors. You mean like how they depend on Americans for everything, Charlie? Israel never asks for American troops because Israel does its own fighting.
Divorce rate has gotten worse.
Divorce rates have hit a decade high.
The divorce rate in the United States after hitting a
Sure thing. I suggest the same approach for the information war. You lead and people like me will follow and provide supplemental support. If you're open to revamping your communication strategy, my team and I are happy to assist. As I'm reading this, I'm thinking about all of those chuds that we get, those trolls in the comment section, trying to slow us down, muddy the water, telling us, you're not doing anything. This isn't doing anything. You're just yapping on a screen. If this wasn't crucial, if this wasn't significant, if this wasn't important, fighting the information war every day, if it wasn't important, we wouldn't have this kind of rhetoric from the other side. They understand it's vastly important. Charlie Kirk understood this. He ran a media empire, and he was very influential in controlling and influencing young people's minds. 3, you need something perhaps like an Israel Truth Network, ITN, which can include social media channels and a one-stop source of information website where, for example, all the negative Israel questions I get can be thoroughly debunked. I would love to
Debunked by what lies?
refer students to such a website. This website could also be a conduit to groups like Hillel and Jewish educators like Dennis Prager.
Love it.
There can be links to books, podcasts, media personalities, and pro-Israel thought leaders. The website can be a place where Judeo-Christian leaders and groups can share information and form closer alliances in the fight against Islamic fundamentalism. ITN social media can post pro-Israel, pro-Judeo-Christian video clips, breaking news, and articles. ITN could potentially be a news aggregation site for all news pertaining to Israel and Judeo-Christian efforts to preserve Western civilization. 4, have you
Judeo-Christian makes as much sense as Islamo-Christian. Like, nah.
considered inviting some of the released hostages to go on a speaking tour in the United States? This could be very effective messaging. It's actually not a bad idea if you're evil and you want to be effective in your evilness. Sure. These hostages can talk about how Gazan civilians not once offered any empathy or compassion. President Trump referenced this lack of humanity when some released hostages visited the Oval Office. This was effective messaging. When impactful messaging clicks, keep it going. Also, these hostages
Or the ones that showed that some of the hostages said they were treated good by Hamas. Of course, Israel doesn't want that to come out. So they're not going to see if they have hostages that are going to corroborate anything dastardly, or they would put them out there. They probably don't have any, or they probably have very few. That's why they're not putting them out there. These guys are going to milk the propaganda cow for every last drop of liquid. So the fact that they're not doing it means they've got nothing.
and all your spokespersons should be arguing it's H group that is committing the G word on their own people. by using civilians as human shields and storing weapons in schools, hospitals, etc. Okay, so you're admitting that it's a war crime what Israel's doing. Because under international law, even if that's true, that doesn't give Israel the right to do what it's doing. And yes, I'm using language that is innocuous right now to describe something that is completely not innocuous. That information drips out in the regular media, but is almost non-existent on social media. So Charlie Kirk was really trying to forge ahead, be a vanguard, sort of a revolutionary in thinking in terms of how to, win back the hearts and minds of the younger generation and defend Israel. And that's why he said, human shields! Did you try the human shields defense? It slaps. What's that? Oh, it hasn't been working for years now? Okay, maybe try it again, but harder this time. Number 5, maybe interview regular Israelis on the streets, asking them what they love about their country. Interview Jews, Israeli Arabs, Druze, Orthodox, secular, etc. Ask Israelis, what do they wish the world knew about Israel? I mean, do you not hear them, Charlie Kirk? Have they not been?
There's been a whole lot of that, and it just reveals a psychotic society. Israel doesn't want to show more of this. Well, they don't really care. So maybe
Doing this? Have we not been for 2 years now listening to Israelis on the street gleefully cheer on the ethnic cleansing campaign of the Gaza Strip? Have we not seen them represented in polling after polling, admitting that 80 to 90% of the society cheers on its government as it campaigns against Palestinians, and that 80, something like 80
I doubt you would get 80 to 90% of Germans supporting the Holocaust of Jews by the Nazis. So for you to have 80 to 90% of Israelis supporting ethnic cleansing and genocide, it really tells you something about Israelis.
2% believes in a real world Amalek that is seeking to destroy the chosen people, and so they must preempt if necessary. Ask them to respond to examples of misinformation on social media. This could be an entire social media PR campaign called "Dude, you got us wrong." Man, that is so hip. It's like I see Charlie Kirk with his hat turned backwards, a skateboard over his shoulder, saying, "What's up, my fellow G-Zeners? Did you know that you got us wrong, dude?" Interview Israelis from all walks of life. Let Israelis explain in their own words how Israel is a pluralistic society, a free country with elected leaders, unlike all of the surrounding authoritarian Arab nations. I think we've done enough of interviewing Israelis to really check the temperature of the society, okay? Why not show how your hospitals take care of wounded T-wordists? Why not show clips of Israel dropping flyers from airplanes warning Gazan civilians to get out of harm's way? We need to see it. We need to see those actions. It would have been nice to see an Israeli plane with a Star of David arrive in the U.S. full of supplies after a hurricane. Has Israel offered any assistance to the U.S. insofar as technology to protect
Can a parasite offer any benefits to its host?
our border, or with the missile defense shield President Trump has discussed? Because, I mean, obviously, the implication here is that the United States needs more protection to guard against those Iranian proxies, which are everywhere and anywhere. These are examples of effective messaging showing Israel as a close ally of America. I mean, how is Charlie Kirk thinking that Israel could help out the United States with, material aid? Just give back the stuff we gave them? Give us some of the things that we give you back to us. That would be nice. Those are examples of effective messaging showing Israel as a close ally of America. Consumers of social media are aware of the billions in supplies we send to Israel, but they're less aware of what America gets in return. Well, they're less aware of it because it doesn't exist. You and your team need to make the argument on social media that Israel is a great friend of America and is vital to U.S. national security. Israel needs to better portray itself as a member of Team Humanity. I can imagine Netanyahu reading
Israel, Team Humanity, with what they're doing right now. Yeah, they're going to be rejected because there's nothing human about what they're doing. There's nothing humane about what they're doing. What they're doing is terrible, is beastly, is animalistic. But something, I'm not going to cover all this letter because I've got to end this show. Something this letter just reveals is it shows how Charlie Kirk was evolving and would have ultimately turned against Israel. It was only a matter of time because the seeds were already there. He was having a doubt, and he's giving these tips on how Israel can better manage its reputation. Obviously, the Israelis don't care about their reputation anyway, so they're just going to do whatever they want to do. So it was only a matter of time for someone like Charlie Kirk, with his massive influence over millions of young conservative Americans who are the potential base and target for Israelis, the Israeli government. It was only a matter of time before they were anti-Israel, or Charlie Kirk was anti-Israel. And once Charlie Kirk was anti-Israel, you know there are millions of young people who they're already a step ahead of Charlie Kirk. It cements it in the Republican Party that no, Israel is no good for America. Israel is no good for you know what they're doing. So is it wild to say that Israel may have taken him out to prevent that from happening? Well, that's a theory that some people have been floating. And this letter just shows how Charlie Kirk, how far he'd gone with his critique of Israel. Anyway, um, this it's all a messy situation. Charlie's gone, Israel is still there, still committing the genocide, and hopefully they would be held to account someday for the atrocities that they are committing. But until then, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.